Do you want to wear my lipstick? See how pretty it is?
Okay.
You want a mirror?
Yeah.
Got it.
That's my mirror.
No, this is my mirror.
No, it's my mirror. It used to be in my room.
No, Daddy found this mirror and he said it was mine.
He lied. It's my mirror.
Enjoy my mirror. Put your lipstick on. Put my lipstick on. Oh, it looks cute. Just gotta do that a little bit. Careful with my mirror. Hi, I'm Chris Gearing.
I'm Niki Gearing.
And this is Conversations with My Daughter.
Where she steals my mirror.
Did I mention she's a teenager? If we haven't met before, my name is Chris Gearing. I am a parent, educator, and coach. I have about 30 years of experience. I've got an early childhood special education degree. I don't know, I wrote some books and stuff. But I have twins. And a lot of times people ask me if the stuff that I teach actually works. And I thought, who better to ask than somebody I did this with for almost 15 years in a week. So we've taken some questions you guys have given us, and then we're going through them every week, and we'll answer a couple different ones. Let's get into it.
You finally got to say it.
I did. I did. You're not patronizing at all.
I know.
First question for today. What is a parent's job?
I feel like that's a really difficult question that people have been trying to answer for a really long time. There's different things a parent has to do. There's a parent, they should do their best to support their children. I think the main thing that is all parents' job that we can all agree on is that it is a parent's job to love their child. That is the parent's biggest job, is to love their child and to show their child that love so the kid has a model for how they can love in the future. But the biggest job is to love their child. Beyond that, try and help them through their problems, but also learn when you need to step back, which is a very difficult balance for pretty much everyone. You got to figure out when to help the kid and when to let the kid figure it out on their own. You have to figure out a way to get the child ready to interact with the world beyond your household in a way that is healthy and respectful. There's a lot of different ways to be a parent. None of those one ways is correct. There is not a right way to raise a child. Since there's so many ways to measure as well how well that you raised a child, the one thing that you definitely can say, yes, this is how you raise a child, is with love. So a parent's job is to be loving, and everything beyond that is just a big mess that you have to do your best to figure out along with your child, so that both of you can be in a healthy and loving relationship.
I like how you were phrasing that. And one of the things that I was thinking about is, you know, we say that a parent's job is that you've got to, a bare minimum, take care of your kid, right? Make sure they've got food and shelter and medication, all those things. But sometimes as a parent, things interfere with that, and you can't help it, right? If you lose your job or you lose your house, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent necessarily. It just means something bad happened to you. And I know that there are parents in areas of the world right now that are war-torn or horrible things going on. And parents are doing the very best they can with the circumstances they have. But I think you're right. The one thing that really carries through is that love. If you love your kid, then at a bare bones minimum, you're doing your job. All right, let's go on to the next question. Do you ever hear other parents speaking differently to their kids in a way that you don't quite recognize or understand? What is that like, and how does it differ, or how does it inform your understanding of your own parents?
Well, one thing I've noticed is that I think I have a pretty good relationship with my mom. Yeah. I have an amazing relationship with my parents. I think the one thing that's different is that a lot of other kids that I know my age aren't as close to their parents, so like they might argue with their parents a lot more, or if their parents come into a room, instead of being like, oh hey mom, it's mom, get out, I'm talking to my friends, which I feel like both of those are reasonable responses. It just depends, reasonable-ish. It depends on the relationship you've already built with your parents, and so I feel like I have a much closer relationship with my mom already than a lot of my friends. Mm-hmm. So in that case, yeah, I really notice how special what we have is when I see some of the other kids in my school who don't have that really strong relationship. And so it both kind of makes me appreciate my mom more, and it also makes me sort of appreciate how, like what I said before, where parenting is very different in different situations. So for me, it seems crazy that they wouldn't have such a good relationship with their parent. Like, don't immediately shoo your parent out of the room. What are you talking about? What is that like? But maybe for them, that particular kid is a lot more focused on independence and doing things on their own away from their parents. And in that case, the relationship they have with their parents, even if to me it seems maybe broken or maybe it's just not a good relationship, it may seem that way to me, but for that other kid, maybe that's just what they need. And when I look at the families that my friends have, I try not to immediately go to, oh, that's just not a very good family relationship. I try and go to, that's a different family relationship. I noticed my mom, when I mentioned the kids telling their parents to get out of the room, she gave that, oh, look. I think everyone has felt that, oh, at some point in their lives, looking at a different family. Probably some of the other kids have looked at how I interact with my mom, and they also had their oh moments. So I think it's really different in each family, and having friends who are part of such different family dynamics really helped me notice that. And then even if you can't immediately see the love on the surface as easily as you can see it between me and my mom, you can still see that there's love there. It's just different people have different ways to show love. And so looking at different families definitely helps me get that nuanced perspective where there's not just one way to show love and one way to be a functioning family. And that's what a lot of people forget, is that they'll see a family and they'll immediately say, oh, this family, I can obviously see their relationships right now at this second, so I'm just going to judge how good of a family they are based on that. Which you really can't do with a person, a family, a relationship, anything. Like, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge the way a kid loves their mom and the mom loves the kid by what the child does when they're already busy playing with their friends and their mom comes in bringing them a plate of food.
Yeah. That was very nuanced. She's good.
Yeah.
I think I've often said something along the lines of a relationship is never captured in a snapshot, right? So if you just see one interaction or even a few interactions, you can't really understand the scope and depth of an entire relationship. I think that's exactly what you were talking about. And that different people have different ways of interacting. So what's loving and fun between us, like we can bicker about the mirror or the lipstick or whatever, but to us, we know we're just kind of playing around and we're not really upset with each other.
We know it's my mirror.
Sure. And for other families, though, that might be like really confrontational, right? Or like a really bad moment for them. And for other families, they may get into like a real fight. Yeah, I think it's good to keep in mind, like you never know what's going on under the surface for other people, and just assume best intentions. The whole thing about get out of my room, I'm on the phone with my friends. I think you would say that to me, but you would say it differently.
I'm talking to XXX friend right now. Can I do the thing later, or do you need me right now?
Which I think is, to me, that's reasonable. Most of the time I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were on the phone with a friend. When you're done, can you come out and talk to me? And there's sometimes when, should we tell them that sometimes we get mad at each other? Oh no. Sometimes I'm really ticked off and I'm like, no, you need to get off the phone now. And I do the mom voice. And it's worked great. She never gets upset or angry back. She never talks back.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
My mirror.
Which I think is another important point to bring up. And that is repair. I think that people don't talk about it very often. I have a almost 15-year-old sitting next to me, and we get along really, really well. But we don't get along really, really well 100% of the time because we're both human beings. And also, we both are ruled by our hormones every now and then. Some of us more than others. And some of us more than others. Give me my mirror.
It's my mirror.
But I think that piece of repair is really important. Like, the expectation between us is never that we will never fight, that we will never have a disagreement, that we will never argue. But I do think the expectation is after we have a disagreement or an argument that we'll repair the relationship.
I wasn't actually going to bonk you on the head with a mirror.
I know. Are you trying to demonstrate repair?
Yes.
Aren't you sweet?
Yeah. We can share my mirror.
So this next question I thought was really interesting, especially for a twin. Is it fair to adjust parenting or expectations for different kids based on age, personality, or needs?
Yes.
Do you think I have raised you and your brother in exactly the same way?
No. Not in exactly the same way.
Good. I feel proud of that. Okay, tell us more.
Arthur and I are, if you didn't already know this, different people.
Very different people.
Yes, very different people. When we heard about this thing, I was like, oh, great, I get to talk with my mom. And he went, I don't want to be seen on camera.
Consent is important.
Obviously, those are two different reactions, and so you can't treat them exactly the same way. If one of the kids is really excited about going on camera and one of the kids doesn't want to go on camera, you don't just say, oh, well, neither of us are going to go on camera, or how about you both go on camera? That just doesn't work. I'm always the one who wants to go play in the yuck. Arthur is not the one who wants to go play with the mud. So you can't parent the same way, bring us to the same things. That's just activities that we do, that we like to do. The way you parent in itself, you're probably going to have like a similar-ish style for both of your kids. You're probably not going to have completely different viewpoints from your kid for how to parent both of your kids. For me and Arthur, Mother has similar-ish way that she tries to treat us generally in the way she interacts with us, but it's also not the same. Like, my mom and I, a lot of times, will show love with playful bickering, like over the mirror, that's mine. And there is sometimes that playful bickering between my mom and Arthur, but also a lot of times the way they would have banter is Arthur maybe is talking about some sort of game system and Mother is trying to understand that. So if you're a parent, you have to be able to match the needs of your child. Sometimes one kid might just need more support in a certain area than the other kid does. It's not unfair to go and hug one child when the other child is sitting on their own, if the child who's sitting on their own is totally fine and the child that you hugged is throwing a tantrum. So you don't need to make everything fair. You just need to do the best you can in the situation that you have. I feel like that's rule 2 of parenting. Love your child and do the best that you can. Spending more time with one kid or comforting one kid more often, or maybe bringing one kid to more activities and clubs, that doesn't necessarily mean you love that one kid more. It just means that's what that one kid needs more. But I think it's also a delicate balance there of trying to find fairness at the same time. For example, if you have one child who has special needs and one child who's pretty neurotypical, it's likely you're going to have to end up spending more effort and time trying to help the child with special needs be able to perform at the level they need to. And that might form some resentment in the neurotypical child who doesn't need all of that if you don't communicate. Whether or not something that happens to you is fair, it's not judged by some sort of algorithm, it's judged by you. So if you are helping one child more than another, that is fair because that one child needs more help. But the child who isn't getting the help, it might feel unfair to them because they might not fully understand.
I want to tell a story that exemplifies this when you were very little. It has to do with breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah.
So when they were very little and I was nursing them, I needed to wean them. And I was thinking about doing it. And as I was nursing them, they were both, I had 2, so at the same time, Niki, I will never forget, went to put her mouth to the breast, and she looked up at me like this, and she went, and she blew this huge raspberry. And I was like, oh.
I was done. I did not need the breastfeeding anymore.
She was done. And, Arthur was not done. He needed more time. And I remember I called your Mormor, my stepmom, who is a lactation consultant, because I'm phenomenally lucky in that. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I need to wean, and she's ready, but he's not. And how do I do that? And she went, yeah, they're different kids, Chris. And I went, oh. So I think especially if you have multiples in your mind, it can be really easy to think of them as a set. And you forget that they are each very unique individuals, and they have different needs, and you need to parent them in very different ways.
Yeah.
I'm so happy today we don't have the leaf blower, but we've got Hammerman outside.
Yeah, we do have a hammer.
Someone is just hammering away.
Yep.
That's our busy neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. We got percussion.
Someone said, I'm curious about drama amongst friends and how the two of you handle it.
I go to a tiny school.
It's pretty tiny.
And I don't have a very large friend group outside of school, so there's not very much drama. When there is, I'm generally able to handle it with my friends. So I feel like at this point in my life, my mom doesn't need to get as involved. When I was younger, if a kid was being unnecessarily mean to me and I felt like they were bullying me, then I would need my mom to help me with that, and she could maybe talk to the kid's parents, or we could talk to the teachers in the school. But now, if I feel a kid is being unnecessarily cruel to me, and I'm really lucky to have a school where everyone is really nice to each other, if one of the kids is teasing me a little too hard, I can go up to them and say, hey, I don't appreciate that, could you please stop? And then generally they just say, oh, sorry, and then there's no more of that. I still feel like as kids grow up, they can learn more about how to help themselves navigate drama amongst friends, which is definitely practice for later, because when you are, let's say, 30 years old and you're trying to figure out drama in the workplace, it might be a little difficult to call up your mom and ask for help in that one. She'd do it. I know she'd do it. Like, if someone was bothering me and I couldn't figure out how to solve it, and it was a big problem, they would not find the body. I know this already. my mom is willing to help me if I need it, but also, as I grow more, I need it less often, and so I'm generally able to figure it out on my own. So I think rule 3 of parenting, recognize when your child needs help and when they don't, and make sure your child knows you can help if they really need it. There's times when I figure something out on my own, but it's easier to do because I know if I can't figure it out on my own, my mom is there. So that takes away some of the stress of navigating tricky situations.
And I can think of some times when you were younger, there were times when there was conflict and there was drama, and there were times you were really upset.
Yeah.
And you would cry about something that was happening with somebody at school, and we would just talk about it. Yeah. But I think most of the time, it was enough for me to kind of coach you on what do you want to say, how do you want to show up for yourself, and questions like, do you want to be friends with this particular person if they treat you this way, helping you draw boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what's behind a lot of drama, is kids who don't know their boundaries to keep themselves emotionally safe.
Yeah. And then in that case, that's another thing about parents being a model, where if you don't set healthy boundaries with your kid can't set healthy boundaries. If your kid is constantly pushing your boundaries, if you don't hold them, it's difficult for your kid to learn how to hold their boundaries, which I think is something you've talked about a lot.
Yeah. We probably should get an outro.
Yeah. Bye! My mirror.